with Todd Waldron. He's Vice President of Carrier Experience over at Truckstop. Todd, I am headed to Matt's pretty soon, and I've heard that Truckstop has a really killer booth this year, and it may even have like a cash grab machine.
Yes, that is true. We have quite the booth and quite the team going, and we got the cash grab machine that's going to be a hit this year. So pretty excited about it. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to test it out and just make sure it's working properly. We'll see.
Oh, excellent. You'll be in Louisville, so we can run into each other in person a little bit later in the week. I can't wait.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
Hey, Todd, people who may not have met you before, they haven't met you as being part of Truckstop, just give us a little background on yourself, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I got over 16 years in the industry at two large Fortune 500 brokerage companies, and as well as a carrier. And then I ran a transportation truckload carrier with a brokerage for the last 5 years. So I had experience primarily in the refrigerated food and beverage space. And then we had a brokerage as well. We were moving freight and had about 115 trucks, 200 plus trailers. So I was doing that. And then 5 weeks now here at Truckstop. So super excited to join the team.
What has felt longer the past 5? How long did 5 years as the CEO of a brokerage feel? You were in maybe the hottest stove you could be in.
Yes, it was wild, especially with the balancing the demands of the truckload side and the brokerage side, and working on a lot of structural, cultural transformation right into COVID, which was a lovely time to be managing and running a company. And then fast forward, we had a lot of other changes as well in the organization that were certainly fun to navigate, but certainly challenging. So it's had its ups and downs, but it was a great learning experience and great time. I wouldn't change it for the world.
You know, in the past 5 years, we had, if you remember at the beginning of COVID, you had like drivers going to the White House. They're so mad at first about those rates. And then it went crazy and everyone forgot about that. And we had 2 years of madness. But now we've had like 2.5 years of sadness, right? And you've been through it all and you have that broker experience. How have the broker and carrier relations dealt with this stress test of this sort of reflexive market, carrier revenge, broker revenge? How's it been moving?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's two sides to it, right? And especially over the last decade, it's changed so much. The broker carrier relationship used to be so transactional in nature, and there was a certain purpose for it in more of a spot environment. But it's evolved into being more of a committed relationship, and something where they're focused on working together in a partnership. And so there's been a lot of negative side to it and negative publicity to what's going on around rate transparency and lack of trust between the two parties and intentions. But I think that one of the things that doesn't get as much publicity is that a lot of work and effort that's going into positive relationships. And you see it where brokers are being more and more disciplined and focused on creating carrier value, driver focused value, advocating to shippers on behalf of their drivers and the challenges that drivers face day in and day out, as well as doing what they say they're going to do and honoring their commitments. And at the same way, I think carriers have certainly come to appreciate the broker's value in the supply chain and the role they play. And so I think there's a lot of positives that are also happening. And I see it. I see a lot of talk about that in the industry, where a lot of the kind of outsider news and information tends to lean to the negative. I think there's certainly a lot to be grateful for. Technology has helped enable that and help to lend to more transparency that's already present today. And that's where Truckstop has a lot of strength and value in saying, how do we bridge this gap between the two competing priorities and the two things that are happening on a daily basis?
Now, let's say Kendra calls you into a room and she goes, hey, based on that 5 years experience at that brokerage, right? What do you think the biggest misconception brokers have about owner-operators is?
Yeah, the one is that they're more focused on their own priorities and their own needs than taking care of the shippers and their customers. I think that's one of the underlying aspects. I think they're so focused on taking care of their shippers, taking care of their customers, and making sure they provide a high level of service. The struggle is there's a lot of competing priorities, and they have to worry about their livelihood. They have to worry about what's happening in their day-to-day lives and their personal relationships and things like that. And there's also this increasing aspect of regulatory pressures on the owner operator independent contractor model. And so I think brokers have really come to appreciate and understand that and focused on how can they provide this value to the owner operators. But I think that's one of the largest misconceptions. But then at the same time, once they get in and start to know and understand, there's some really cool deep relationships that take place where both sides are serving the other one and they're focused on each other's priorities.
Now, Todd, we're both going to be in Louisville at MATS. 60,000 truck drivers and NEC professionals there. A lot of more truck drivers than any event. That's why I love going to it. If you make a product in this field, do not skip MATS because you can talk to thousands of drivers. And one of the questions I'm going to be asking them is what do they think the biggest challenges independent owner operators are facing today? Now, we're going to learn a lot at MATS, and we're going to learn a lot in 2025 in just a couple of days. But right now, from where you're sitting, what do you think the biggest challenge owner-operators are facing, and how's Truckstop helping them with that?
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of my questions too, but it comes from multiple angles. One is the freight market, right? The rate and freight pressure, finding the right loads at the right time at the right rate is the constant pressure, especially when we're in a down market such as we are today and have been for some time. The other is the regulatory pressure and uncertainty that is really weighing on the independent contractor owner operator model. There's variability by states. There's pressure at a federal level, and there's unknowns that the regulatory environment kind of puts an additional pressure on the independent contractor. And so it's been exciting for me to see a lot of the associations advocate for on behalf of our drivers that want to own their own business, that want to run their own lanes and their own routes, and that find success in that. And so I think there's some unknowns in it. I think the model, the owner operator model is certainly going to be successful in the long term, but there might be some evolution on how we balance policy with the needs of the owner operator and the difference that we in trucking have compared to other industries where this pressure certainly kind of originated from with the rise of the gig economy and other situations that don't apply to trucking.
Yeah, I mean, trucking is one of those it's like Schrodinger's regulations. It's like the most overregulated, underregulated industry. And a lot of times the regulations seem to be pointed in the wrong place. And a lot of times the burden falls on, just like when regulations fall on massive corporations and small businesses. Same happens in trucking. Some of these big regulations, the big companies can absorb them, but the smaller owner operators have a lot harder time. We're talking about things like AB5, regulations like that. In Arkansas, in the opening, I was talking about it's strengthening English language proficiency. There's a lot of regulations going on. How are owner operators navigating them right now?
Yeah, it makes it challenging, especially the unknowns. It makes it difficult to manage the different expectations, especially when there's variability by state level, right? And understanding how that's going to impact their business and what they need to do to adapt to it. They already have so much on their plate trying to manage the driving at a minimum, but also the dispatching, the back office functions, et cetera. And so one is having various resources that provide you with updated information. And so there's a lot happening, seeing Adam come out with his owner operator tool and class that just helps further the education to help support their business, technology that's out there to support their business, things that we're doing at Truckstop to help them end to end in their freight movement equation so that we help them find freight with vetted brokers, as well as then support their back office functions and help streamline their overall processes. And so making their daily operational lives easier can enable time to keep up with these additional pressures, but it's still really the unknown that can make it challenging. It's certainly a significant psychological challenge as well as the operational challenges that they have to face. So being there to support them, helping them, listening to them, finding out and advocating for them on behalf of them to the industry is a big portion of that.
What do you think the long-term outlook is for the independent owner operator?
I think it's good. I think it's promising. I think there's been so much advocacy for this model, and really it supports the American dream. And so I don't see that dying. I think that it'll continue to evolve. I think market pressures will push the pendulum back and forth between company drivers and owner operators, as we see all too often. But I think that model will remain. And people will see the strength and benefit in it. Technology has helped enable owner operators to be more successful again in managing their day-to-day business and increasing transparency, increasing communication. I think it will continue to help them. There's a lot of talk about AI brokerage tools that support brokers in AI voice, but I think there's opportunities in that for the owner operators. Imagine someone being able to call to find loads for them, or being able to engage with multiple parties on their behalf and things like that. And so that's future looking, certainly, but I think there's so many positive things happening, and I think this industry is here to support them and advocate for them.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you. I think, especially in that AI field, it's so crowded and so many people mention it, it's so vague. But I think people need to have to put a stronger message out around it. But I also think the winner is the one that managed to integrate, the one that can really be my back office, because it can actually do these tasks for me in these other programs. And that's traditionally been one of the troubles in freight tech. It's just those integrations, getting them down. If AI can empower that, I think that would help. But trust. Now, you had that experience on the brokerage side. Do you think trust is still the biggest challenge between brokers and carriers?
I think it's the biggest challenge, as it is in all of our relationships that we have as humans. And that's not to say that it's not better or worse than it was a decade ago. I think it's different. But I think it's naturally the biggest challenge that both parties need to focus on, and ensure that they're gaining trust, as they do in any business relationship and any human relationship that we have. And so at the foundation, it's about what are we doing? Are we doing what we say we're going to do? Are we honoring our commitments? Is there shared expectations? And are we communicating when those expectations aren't met? And so I think the biggest thing that weighs on trust in supply chain is the competing priorities of the parties in the ecosystem. You can throw out the bad actors and the people that don't care or want trust, but at the foundation, the good people, what challenges that is we have shippers with their priorities, receivers, we have the brokerage priorities, and then we have the driver's priorities that oftentimes compete when shipment execution goes awry. And so stepping into that, assuming good intent behind actions that were created, whether it was a driver late or appointment reschedules that were needed at the shipper, or challenges that the broker had in planning, if we step into that, assume good intent and communicate effectively, it helps to block out the noise and the tension that avoids and breaks down trust. I think trust is being able to navigate challenges and come out on the other side with a better understanding of how the other person was affected. And so I think it's a challenge. It will always be a challenge. But like here at Truckstop, we're focused on how do we bridge that gap? How do we build trust? How do we enable a system and an ecosystem where both sides can evolve together and help grow each other's business?
What's the best way to ruin that? What's the best way to ruin that trust? What should you avoid?
Lying and not doing what you say you're going to do. Often people are put in positions, some lie intentionally, some are put in positions where they feel like they have to lie, and neither will build or enable that trust. Being honest, if something happened that was out of your control or in your control, take ownership of it, and be honest. And that will really, while fearful and scary in conflict, can help build long-term sustainable trust. And I've seen that play out time and time again in carrier relationships, the many, many relationships I've had with shippers, vendors across the board. I think that's the biggest thing that can really impact it.
That's probably the best way to gain trust too, is honesty. The same answer works both directions. Wield that blade wisely. Now, people who want to learn about Truckstop, maybe they want to come see you guys over at Matt's. Maybe they want to, grab some cash that's flying around out of the air. How do they reach out to you guys? How do they connect with y'all?
Absolutely. Truckstop.com is a great place to get started. See us at Matt's. I will have a big booth out there. I'll be there along with a lot of my other partners at Truckstop. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn, Todd Waldron, and then Todd Waldron at Truckstop.com via email, and everywhere else in between. So that's the best way.
Hey, Todd, thank you so much for stopping by. You got a pick for the NCAA tournament? What horse are you riding?
I do not. I'm just sit back and watch the chaos unfold and start rooting for one that I think has a chance towards the end and make it seem like I was riding that horse the whole time.
Yeah, I like when like there's guys like it's a bunch of guys who never watched college basketball all year, and they get together acting like experts for like 1 week
They
on
know
this
it.
stuff. And it's always someone like me just throwing. I don't watch college basketball. I just pick schools I like. I like the name. I like the logo. St. John's was good as a kid. They actually screwed me in this tournament, but that's all right. St. John's.
It's a bummer. Yeah, I fill out a bracket in less than 5 minutes because I just shoot through them and don't pretend to know what I'm talking about.
No, it's the best way to do it. It's like multiple choice. Go with your first guess. Todd, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you as well. Look forward to meeting you this week.
See you later. See you in Louisville.